A Billionaire's chess challenge exposes a homeless girl's incredible genius. Prepare to be amazed. Mia leaned against the cold, cracked wall of a building, the bustling city of Chicago swirling around her. She watched the elite chess players gather, their tailored suits and designer shoes contrasting sharply with her tattered clothes. Inside her, a storm brewed, an ache for connection and belonging tugged at her heart. Each articulate laugh from the players pinched her, a reminder that intellect often dances hand in hand with privilege. Her father's face flickered in her mind, as familiar and distant as a ghost. A former chess prodigy whose brilliance had once illuminated the darkest paths. He had vanished one fateful night, leaving only unanswered questions. Would he be proud of her if he saw her now? The thought lingered, stirring both anger and sadness within her. Mia clenched her fists, her creativity like wildfire, yearning to carve a space in a world that seemed intent on overlooking her. As the announcement echoed through the thrumming air, Mia's heart raced. A grand chess challenge hosted by billionaire Thomas Moretti. This was her moment, her potential opening into the world she craved. But even as her dreams flickered with hope, doubt gnawed at her. Was it even feasible for a girl like her, standing in the shadows, to step into the light? To belong to a game built on strategy, merit, and, in her case, desperation? Mia tightened her grip on the crumpled flyer he'd sent out, a thick paper unlike the ones she usually scavenged. Billionaires and chess masters only, she muttered bitterly, feeling the weight of expectations envelop her. Her rising frustration tore through her, pushing her to the edge, coiled like a spring, ready to launch her forward or shatter her entirely. In that moment of uncertainty, she made a choice. She inhaled deeply, shoulders taut, and stepped away from the shadows. Sarah, an onlooker who had been watching her with a raised brow, flashed a grin of surprise as Mia boldly approached Thomas Moretti. The billionaire stood tall, his gaze scanning the crowd before landing on Mia. "Let me show you who I am," she demanded, voice shaking but resolute. "I'm not ashamed of my past." To her shock, something glimmered in Moretti's eyes. Recognition? Compassion? He scrutinized her, not for her dirt-streaked skin, but for the fire she ignited within his heart. "All right, let's see what you've got," he replied, a faint smile curling at the corners of his lips. Unknown to her, Mia had planted the first seeds of transformation. Yet an easy thrill coursed through her. She could feel the whispers of jealousy swell around them. Those who felt threatened by her sudden appearance, from both the elite circles and her own internal fears. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Days blurred into sleepless nights of practice. Mia was caught in a whirlwind of ambition, a desire to prove her worth clashing against the fear of losing herself, of confronting the ghosts of her father and their shared history. As she moved through the intricacies of chess, strategy turned into her lifebuoy, pulling her into both hope and doubt. Would victory mean leaving behind the father she never knew, the one she imagined as a king who had fallen from grace? The championship loomed closer, and with every advance on the chessboard, the walls of her world closed in. Just as her first victory landed, a shocking revelation about her father's whereabouts surfaced, reverberating like cold steel through her veins. The truth could push her toward reckoning or fracture the very dreams she was trying to build. Gasping, she faced the ultimatum: seize the moment and risk losing everything she fought for, or hide once more in the remnants of her troubled past. The uncertainty gnawed at her soul, an unquenchable fire demanding resolution as the impending match whispered promises of change or heartbreak. Mia stood at the precipice, knowing that every move could lead to a new beginning or a devastating end. Mia stood in front of the dingy mirror in her temporary lodging, the flickering bulb overhead casting her reflection in harsh, unflattering light. Deep bags hung under her eyes, remnants of restless nights steeped in self-doubt and relentless practice. She had pushed herself to the brink, trying to absorb every strategy, every nuance of the game she loved. Yet, instead of progress, she found an unsettling fear creeping into her mind. What if her father's shadow loomed larger than her ambition? Her fingers brushed against her unruly hair, the strands a fraying representation of her chaotic emotions. The revelation about her father had struck her like a thunderbolt. Toothbrushing momentarily forgotten, her thoughts spiraled around him, the lost pieces of her life, the last moments they'd shared, and the heartache that had defined her existence. The chess pieces scattered before her on the makeshift board felt less like allies and more like obstacles in her journey towards self-discovery. But she refused to let this despair paralyze her. Instead, she leaned closer to her reflection, facing the girl she often hid behind. "You are more than his legacy, Mia," she whispered. "You are your own." That affirmation settled softly, pushing her away from the precipice of despair and toward a realization. Her story was not merely about her father's past, but about creating her own future. With renewed determination, she picked up a pawn and moved it forward on the board. It was a small action, yet it symbolized her choice to fight for her identity, to define herself outside of his shadows. Competing in the tournament was no longer just about proving her intelligence. It was about reclaiming her narrative, about taking the pieces of her blistering life and reshaping them into a powerful narrative of resilience. As she walked to the tournament venue, the streets felt both foreign and familiar. Remnants of her past nipped at her heels. She encountered other players decked in their finery as they strode confidently towards their destiny. A pang of jealousy clawed at her, not of those who flaunted their wealth, but of the confidence they exuded as they navigated a world she only dreamed of infiltrating. But in that very moment, she remembered the fire in Moretti's eyes and the desperate willingness to judge her on her merits instead of her clothes. That flicker sparked inspiration within her to embrace every flaw and vulnerability. Upon arrival, the venue buzzed with energy and whispered anticipation. She took a deep breath, absorbing the atmosphere. The tension, the exchange of strategies, the battle of wits looming ahead. Mia felt the weight of observers' gazes upon her, but this time, instead of an anchor, they fueled her resolve. As she faced her opponent, a seasoned competitor with a well-practiced demeanor, every heartbeat pulsed with the weight of expectations. Moving past her moment of hesitation, she opened with a gambit, surprising even herself with the brilliance that flowed through her fingertips. Each move built her confidence. With every piece she captured, she felt shards of her past fall away. However, just as the game reached a critical juncture, a shadow flickered at the edge of her peripheral vision. A figure she had not anticipated to see, an unsettling reminder of her journey, stood watching. Her father's old rival, a man she had sworn she would never allow to dictate her game, was scrutinizing her with a calculating gaze. Mia's heart raced, igniting an acute awareness of the challenge that lay not just on the board, but within her.
Now confronted with her father's legacy and the constant pressure to prove herself, she had to decide. Would she play it safe or unleash the full extent of her talent? The moment bore down on her like an impending storm, daring her to engage in a battle not solely for victory, but for her very identity. The question lingered as she prepared to make her next move. Could she seize control of not just the game, but her own narrative amid the ghosts of her past? Mia's fingers hovered above the board, the black and white squares blurring into a uniform mass as her mind raced. The figure in the back, her father's old rival, shifted slightly, not an outright threat, but a reminder of expectations that had become suffocating.
She could feel every gaze in the room pull taut on her shoulders like a heavy shroud. She glanced at the chess clock, a mechanical heartbeat ticking relentlessly. The pressure mounted. Each second felt like an eternity, a drumbeat echoing her doubts. Questions churned. Should she play conservatively, protected by the safety of expected moves? Or should she embrace this moment, unleash the creativity and innovation that had been bred in her by necessity? There was no escaping the truth behind the paternal legacy looming, but she could shape how it influenced her. With a deep breath, she leaned slightly forward, letting the noise around her fade to a dull murmur. This was her time, a moment that wouldn't be guided by her father's fears or limitations, but colored by her own passion and skill. Mia recalled how her father had thrived on caution, his conservative playstyle born from a need to project strength rather than vulnerability. The chess community had revered him, but she had inherited the underlying lessons of strategy. You don't always need to follow the well-worn path. Neither did she. In a flash of inspiration, she moved her bishop forward, fierce and unyielding. The gambit was audacious. It threatened an adjacent piece while opening up paths for others. She heard a ripple of gasps from the audience, mixed with her own pounding heartbeat. For a moment, she felt weightless, as if she were flying on the currents of her own decision. Her opponent hesitated for just a heartbeat, but that was all she needed. The pause was more than he anticipated, and she saw the moment of uncertainty flicker across his face. She wasn't taking a risk. She was asserting dominance, claiming both the game and the narrative. For the first time since stepping into this arena, she felt a surge of confidence fill her chest. Mia's next few moves cascaded forward in rhythmic succession, a beautiful dance of strategy that mesmerized even the veteran players near the back. With each exchange, the ghosts of her father's influence seemed to grow fainter, replaced by the blazing spark of her own brilliance. She reveled in the sensation, a delight bubbling within her, igniting not only her ambition, but a fierce sense of identity as well. But as the endgame approached, the specter of her father's rival grew more palpable. His scrutinizing gaze felt heavier. She could almost hear the echoes of his taunts sliding through her mind. He had known her father's every flaw, every crack in his demeanor. Could he see the same potential in her? Or worse, could he scrutinize her path and deem her a lesser version of the man he sought to undermine? With her time trickling down, a single move hung in the air like the edge of a blade. The choice simmered. A safe rook trade that would stabilize her lead, or a risky queen sacrifice, one that, if executed perfectly, would echo with a resounding affirmation of her independence. The weight of her decision pressed down, and she felt the tides shift.
Would she align herself with a legacy of caution, or demonstrate that true mastery lay in bold risks? The moment crystallized, the crowd's energy vibrating through her very core. In that frenzied split second, clarity surged within her. With deliberate resolve, she chose the queen, positioning it where it would pin down the opponent's king without reserve, a reflection of her journey to become more than just an echo of the past. The tension in the air crackled as she executed her move. The world held its breath, poised to witness not just the outcome of the game, but the birth of Mia's identity as her own player, one who would no longer be defined by shadows. The rival's eyes narrowed, revealing a flicker of astonishment as realization dawned upon him. This wasn't just Mia playing. This was her reclaiming and rewriting her legacy, her own distinct narrative. But just as the game reached its peak, a new voice sliced through the charged atmosphere. It was a challenging call, an unexpected proposal that threatened the foundation of everything she had fought for. A challenge not just to her skills, but to her very essence awaited her in the aftermath of victory or defeat. Would her newfound identity withstand this next trial? Mia's heart raced as she turned her gaze toward the source of the disruption. The room had shifted. The staunch chess atmosphere cracked like porcelain underfoot. A tall figure in an impeccably tailored suit stood across the board, an audacious smirk dancing on his lips. James Griffin, a billionaire whose business acumen had made him notorious in more ways than one. "I propose a challenge," he stated, his voice slicing through the whispers like a sword. "A tournament. The winner will receive funding to establish their own chess academy." The implications of his statement settled over Mia, heavy like damp air before a storm. It wasn't just a declaration, it was a gauntlet thrown, and its reach extended far beyond her victories. Her fingers trembled slightly at the prospect. This wasn't just about a game. Winning meant control over her future, a chance to create a space where young players like her could harness their potential without the weight of parental legacy. But accepting also meant facing an opponent famed for his strategic maneuvers, not only on the chessboard, but in the ruthless world of business. What did Mia truly know about being a leader? Her father had been celebrated, yes, but he had also found himself ensnared by arrogance, a trait his rival had weaponized against him. She had danced through this match, but was she ready to step into a larger arena where stakes escalated and relationships intertwined? In her mind, she began to question her own readiness. Was this challenge an opportunity or a trap meant to expose her vulnerabilities? The murmurings around her felt like a chorus, echoing familiarity, yet fueling her doubts. Would Griffin recognize her triumph as an anomaly, an act of chance rather than a testament to her perseverance? Taking a deep breath, she pushed aside the cacophony of thoughts. A resolve began to solidify within her. "I'll accept," she declared, her voice steadier than she felt. Each syllable marked a step towards defining who she was beyond her past. It broke through the veil of uncertainty she had been harboring. However, accepting the challenge forged a new set of dilemmas. Her identity as a player seemed rooted, but would it resonate in the competitive world beyond a mere game? She envisioned the academy, a sanctuary for growth, where students would rise not in shadows, but in the brilliance of discovery. As the faces around her shifted, she sensed the anticipation brewing, but more crucially, she felt a spark, the beginning of ambition igniting into true drive. That night, sleepless possibilities danced through her mind like flickering candlelight. The designs of the academy took shape, blending imagination with the shades of her life experiences. She envisioned mentorship sessions filled with laughter, tough contests, and creativity fostering both challengers and companions. Yet a lurking anxiety lingered. Melding her personal strategy with educational vision felt monumental. Would she be able to mentor and inspire while simultaneously competing with Griffin? Was she capable of continuity, the push towards both individual mastery and nurturing the potential of others? Mia found herself standing at a threshold of dreams underscored by fears. The shadows were not banished, they loomed as a constant reminder of past failures and impending scrutiny. Grappling with her emotions, she realized that clarity wouldn't unravel naturally. She needed to train, strategize, and refine her approach, both on the chessboard and as a guide for aspiring players. Time worked against her, but it was also her ally. The urgency of preparation echoed through her thoughts like an urgent metronome. With each unpredictable move of this challenge, a truth crystallized within her. This wasn't just about her. It was about the legacy she would create for others. As the sun began to rise, casting soft shadows across her workspace, she wrote down her first strategies, channeling her vision into tangible goals. This was no longer a solitary pursuit. This was about connecting, evolving, and empowering. But amidst the rising excitement, a sudden realization gripped her. What if Griffin's next move disrupted everything she had begun to construct? The competition loomed, but perhaps it was not just about chess. It was about the very framework of her resolve that would be tested. With the dawn lighting her path, Mia's phone buzzed, an unexpected message that could change the game entirely. Her breath caught as she read the words, feeling both exhilaration and dread. Would she be ready when the next challenge arrived?
Mia's pulse quickened as she stared at her phone screen, the words blurring momentarily under her racing thoughts. It was a message from a renowned chess coach, someone she had idolized from afar, offering a private session. It was an opportunity to sharpen her techniques, to confront the limits of her abilities directly before she faced Griffin. But it also felt overwhelming, cloaked in the weight of expectations that lived in the subtle moments of doubt left from her childhood. Could she really be a credible cadet for such a coach? He was known for sculpting winners, and here she was, a girl with nothing but a few local victories to her name and a vision crowded with uncertainties. Her surroundings, though modest, had always hinted at ceilingless potential. Yet self-doubt crept in like an uninvited guest, whispering that perhaps this chance wasn't meant for her. Could she really be a credible cadet for such a coach? He was known for sculpting winners, and here she was, a girl with nothing but a few local victories to her name and a vision crowded with uncertainties. Her surroundings, though modest, had always hinted at ceilingless potential. Yet self-doubt crept in like an uninvited guest, whispering that perhaps this chance wasn't meant for her. Taking a deep breath, she resisted the urge to dismiss the message. This was it, the critical turning point where she could either ebb into fear or surge forward with resolve. This invitation could redefine her trajectory. She couldn't afford to let fear mar her vision. With every ounce of will she possessed, she typed a reply, affirming her acceptance of the session. In the days that followed, Mia immersed herself in preparation, dividing her time between intense personal training with a chess engine and outlining her goals for the academy. Each move she practiced became a testament to her growth, a way to fortify the foundations of her future. She pored over games played by masters, studying tactics and strategic closures, understanding more profoundly that chess was not just a game of kings, but also a festival of ideas, adjustments, and resilience. However, the intensity of her preparation also revealed unsettling vulnerabilities. In moments of solitude, the shadows of her past loomed large, whispering that she was merely playing in a world built for others, not for someone like herself. Would her voice be powerful enough in the din of professional chess? Would her academy sing with the sound of ambition, or would it fall silent like so many dreams before? As her sessions with the coach approached, she began to draft a manifesto for her academy, passionate notes about fostering an environment not just for learning chess, but for embracing individuality, improving mental acuity, and mastering emotional resilience. Her mission was evolving beyond chess. It was becoming a path towards empowerment. Yet the reality of executing those visions felt daunting. What if she stumbled along this journey? On the morning of her first coaching session, she felt an electric knot of anticipation and dread. The coach's reputation loomed over her like a castle, fortified and intimidating. Would he see her not just as prospect, but as someone worthy of developing potential? The weight of that judgment felt insurmountable.
Arriving at the training facility, she was immediately struck by the atmosphere. The smell of polished wood, the subdued rustle of pieces moving across boards, and the sharp focuses in the eyes of players entrenched in their pursuits. As she took a seat opposite her coach, she steeled herself against the vulnerability that swirled within her. "Let's see what you've got," he said, a challenge warming his tone. Each piece she moved felt like an encapsulation of every fear and every hope flung into the open for scrutiny. What she didn't anticipate was how the process itself would shift her understanding. Each game between them became a testament to her evolution rather than merely a series of transactions on the board. Something remarkable was taking shape within her, a tenacious spirit affirmed by each calculated decision. But just as clarity emerged, a shadow flickered at the edges of her focus. Griffin was gathering information about her preparation. He would soon know the contours of her strategy, every decision she'd made leading up to their face-off. Feeling the pressure of impending confrontation, Mia pondered her next move, both in chess and in her life. She knew she had to redefine the very essence of how she approached not just the game, but itself. She was on the brink of a transformation, but would it hold beneath the weight of Griffin's impending challenge? With this new understanding, she glanced at the board before her, determined to not only anticipate her opponent's moves, but also her own potential. The moment of truth felt imminent, and the next challenge was no longer a mystery. It would reveal the very essence of her capability, a reflection of what she was truly capable of achieving. What if she'd unlocked a piece of her identity that would alter everything she thought she knew? Mia took a steadying breath as her fingers brushed the cool surface of the chess pieces beneath her. The board seemed alive, pulsating with possibilities that danced just beyond her grasp. With every session that passed, her confidence swelled, an incremental victory against the echoes of doubt that had shadowed her since childhood. She had embarked on this journey to deepen her skills and fortify her resolve, not just to compete with Griffin, but to unearth the core of her potential. Her coach's deep, analytical eyes dissected her moves, revealing truths she hadn't fully understood about her own game. "You need to trust yourself," he'd said during their last session. "Every piece on this board represents a choice, a path. Make those choices count." The weight of those words hung in the air, shaping her inner monologue as she encountered each challenge at the board. As days turned into a blur of drills, tactics, and strategy discussions, Mia found that her understanding of chess transcended mere calculations. The game was a living narrative, and she was its protagonist, maneuvering through obstacles with intent. This revelation captivated her. Each session felt less about outsmarting her coach and more about discovering layers within herself, like a chess piece unveiling its latent capability. Yet her ambition compelled her thoughts back to Griffin. The looming inevitability of their match gripped her mind, threading anxiety through the fabric of her newfound self-assurance. She envisioned their encounter not merely as a battle of wits, but as a pivotal moment in her quest for self-acceptance. Winning would be great, but the real triumph lay in demonstrating to herself her ability to claim her place in the arena. In quiet moments while she reviewed her preparation, those fragile insecurities would re-emerge. What if Griffin dissected her moves with the precision she lacked? What if he turned the weight of his experience against her? Each question felt heavy, a tangible hurdle she wrestled with, forcing her to confront the finer nuances of her identity. Was she merely an underdog, or was there a champion waiting to be unleashed? In silent resolve, she began to sketch out her strategies, not just for individual matches, but for how she would conduct herself in the face of Griffin's challenge.
The academy she envisioned resonated within her like a distant echo, urging her to lead by example, not under the pressure of victory over opponents, but through fostering competence and individuality. The night before the match, Mia sat with her flatmate, reflected on her mission. She spoke passionately about the values she wanted to instill in her future academy, the empowerment she aimed to foster. But in doing so, she caught a glimpse of her own vulnerability. "What if I fail?" she slipped out, a whisper laced with uncertainty. Her flatmate, unwavering, met her gaze. "What if you don't? What if this is the beginning of everything you've ever wanted?" She mulled that thought over as she settled into bed, letting the echoes of her aspirations hum softly in her mind like a lullaby. The shadows of doubt tugged at her, but beneath them a brighter conviction surged. She realized that the true challenge was not just Griffin, but a reckoning with her self-doubt, a confrontation with every limit she had accepted along the way. With dawn came clarity, her heart pounding like a war drum as she looked over her meticulously prepared notes one last time. The room felt charged with energy as she visualized her moves, resolutions intertwining. She could feel an inner resolve crystallizing, bolstered by hours of practice, the manifestations of her will. And yet, as she gathered her things to leave for the match, a new thought gripped her, a realization that her meeting with Griffin wasn't merely a test of skill, but an examination of resilience, a confrontation with the assumptions she held about herself. What if this clash unraveled not just her strategies, but the very essence of her identity?
As she stepped into the sunlight, a mixture of dread and exhilaration surged within her, every heartbeat chanting for her to rise. Today, she would not be merely Mia, she would be an architect of her fate, playing beyond the confines of her past and into an uncertain but thrilling future. The moment had arrived, and with it, the challenging question remained. Who would she become when the dust settled on the board? The hall reverberated with the sound of restrained energy, a hum permeating the air as Mia stepped into the chess arena. Her senses sharpened. The vibrant colors of the board reflected her inner turmoil as she absorbed the atmosphere thick with anticipation. The surroundings felt surreal, almost electric, as spectators gathered, their whispers laced with speculation. No longer did she feel just like an aspiring player. She was on the precipice of a battle that would reveal the depths of her resolve. As she crossed to her designated table, each deliberate step seemed to echo her heartbeat. The diverse crowd looked on, from seasoned players to curious onlookers, their gazes weighty with expectation. Were they here to witness a spectacle, or were they here to see her falter? The question gnawed at her confidence, but it also ignited a fire within her. She was not here merely to play. She was ready to elevate her narrative beyond the constraints of her past. When Griffin entered, he exuded a commanding presence, a juxtaposition of confidence and calm. His earlier mettle seemed magnified under the bright lights, and for a brief moment Mia was engulfed by a shadow of intimidation. Yet, beneath that unease, a resolute voice whispered, urging her to remember her journey, the countless hours of study, her disciplined training, the courage that had slowly replaced hesitation. She inhaled deeply, centering herself as the game began. Mia focused intently, mapping out her opening moves while keeping a watchful eye on Griffin's responses. Each piece she moved carried the weight of her aspirations, each shift on the board echoing her internal struggle for self-acceptance. With each move, she thought back to her training, the lessons woven into her psyche. Trust yourself. Every piece is a choice. Her fingers danced across the board, bold yet measured, injecting her strategy with unyielding determination. As they progressed into the mid-game, the ebb and flow of tension visibly intensified. Griffin played with determination, his maneuvers sharp, but Mia quickly adapted. This wasn't just a battle of skill, it was a dialogue, an assertion of her identity. An unexpected confidence surged through her, a sudden realization that she wasn't merely reacting to Griffin's play, but actively countering his narrative. In that moment, Mia understood something profound. She controlled the board as much as he did. Through various exchanges of pieces, self-reflection unfolded in tandem with strategic choices.
The game narrowed to a critical juncture, and she felt an inner energy sparking in her chest. It was the tension of the moment colliding with her understanding of self-worth. She recalled her mentor's advice about seizing opportunities, about how every chess game mirrored the decision-making in life. Mia had faced plenty of challenges in her tumultuous journey, yet each had served as a stepping stone, paving the way to this moment. She executed a bold move, sacrificing her knight to gain a stronger position. The tactic caught Griffin off guard, and for a fleeting heartbeat, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Triumph surged through Mia, her nerves transforming into exhilaration. Each game taught her not just about skill, but about the delicate interplay between vulnerability and empowerment. It was time she embraced both for what they were, strengths. With her confidence mounting, Mia consciously quieted the whisper of doubt that lingered in the corners of her mind. It was simply a matter of execution from here, a pathway where clarity emerged. She began to visualize not just this game, but her future, a panorama of endless possibilities illuminated by her hard-fought wisdom. Griffin countered with fierce agility, determined not to let his surprise slip into panic. They traded pieces with swift, calculated grace, each move laden with the weight of significance. The crowd's energy felt alive, morphing into a pulse that echoed Mia's heartbeat. As the pieces danced, so did her thoughts, embracing the exhilarating potential of victory, while recognizing that even defeat was merely a lesson cloaked in disappointment. The clock ticked ominously in the background. The board transformed into a battlefield, each piece a soldier, obeying the orders of a commander, learning the essence of flexibility and resilience. Mia found herself enthralled in the rhythm of the game, her focus unwavering, embodying the confidence of her journey rather than the shadow of her origins. As the board closed in on its final arrangements, the moment crystallized. It wasn't merely about winning or losing. It was about who she had become, a player emboldened by the scars of experience. Yet, beneath this burgeoning sense of self-assuredness, lingered a nagging thought. What would happen if she lost now? Would it diminish her progress, or summarily brand her a failure in the eyes of those who once doubted her? With one final move, tension gripped her as she reached for her queen. Would it be the checkmate she yearned for, or a miscalculation that could unravel her hard-wrought identity? With her decision made, she moved forward, pulse racing, poised to redefine not just the game, but her very existence. In that fleeting moment of action, she realized this struggle was more than just chess. It was the fight for her own belief, a testament to her worth. But as the pieces settled, would her greatest trial be the game itself, or the echo of doubt still battling in her mind?
The weight of potential failure hung by a thread, leaving Mia to confront the raw truth. Had she truly transformed, or would this moment be just another chapter in a story of searching? The world around Mia came to a standstill as she pressed her queen down onto the board, the wood meeting the felt with a soft thud. All eyes locked onto the chess pieces, the air thick with anticipation. Time stretched, her breath halting as she awaited Griffin's response, the competitive energy crackling like dangerous static around them. "Checkmate," she declared, though the words felt foreign on her tongue, wrapped in disbelief and pride. The moment was overwhelming. Triumph and fear coiled together, each vying for dominance within her. Griffin's expression hardened, his eyes narrowing as he recalibrated his strategy, searching for some unseen fault in her play. But what she saw in his gaze was more than defeat. It was as if he was wrestling with the realization that he had misjudged her. She reveled in the notion for an instant, tasting victory not just in the game, but savoring it as a vindication of her identity. Yet a new battle emerged within Mia. While an electrifying sense of accomplishment pulsed through her, tainting it was the acknowledgement that victory brought with it expectations, new pressures to live up to. The esteem of the spectators, the weight of tension, even the walls bearing witness to her fight felt like an armor encasing her, potentially suffocating. Would she ever escape being that homeless girl whose genius was hidden beneath layers of societal judgment? She took a moment to stand amidst the adulation. Applause erupted, her name carried along like a chant. They were recognizing her brilliance, but were they doing so for the right reasons? A gnawing question resurfaced. How would she define herself beyond this moment? Would she forever be known merely as the girl who defeated Griffin? Across the table, Griffin leaned closer, intriguing determination taking hold of his features as he finally spoke. "That was impressive, Mia. I must admit, a rare talent like yours deserves recognition." His praise, though valid, felt paradoxical. "Thanks," she mumbled, trying to hide the defensive impulse rising in her throat. This encounter was about more than just strategic prowess. It was about seeking respect, an identity shifting under varied lenses. "Have you considered taking your skills further? Tournaments? Coaching young talents?" he continued, seemingly intrigued by something deeper in her potential. Mia's heart raced at the thought. Could she pursue something more? Something that gave her meaning beyond this game? The notion sparked an ember in her chest, igniting the drive to not merely linger in the shadows, but illuminate paths for others, if only she could muster the courage to step into the light. Visions of a chess academy floated through her mind. Young faces illuminated by the same fervor she had for the game. A new generation empowered by their own stories of overcoming. Yet self-doubt quickly crept in. Could she possibly nurture that kind of change when she was still wrestling with her own uncertainty? "Why not?" Mia answered, the words uncharacteristically bold as they slipped past her lips. Realization dawned, the excitement of stepping out, of not being just a player of the game, but a potential architect of future journeys. Encouraged, she decided, this was the spark she had long sought for her own life. Griffin studied her, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips, as if he were unveiling something deeper than mere strategy between them. "Things aren't always as they seem, are they?" he murmured, leaving her mulling over his cryptic words. His challenge was set. He wasn't just a rival, but a mentor of sorts, presenting her with a crossroads, a reflection of her own self-imposed limitations. The weight of possibility burgeoned in her chest. Would she embrace this turn or retreat back into obscurity? As she stepped away from the board, the audience's chatter faded, leaving only the clash of thoughts in her mind. The real game was just beginning, and she had yet to determine her next move. Would confronting her past be the catalyst for her growth, or would the familiarity of doubt tangle her once again? These uncertainties lingered as Mia contemplated the unfolding opportunities ahead. The real question looming: how far was she willing to venture into the unknown, and what would it ultimately reveal about who she truly was? Mia stood at the entrance of the newly established chess academy, a tangible embodiment of her dreams and struggles. Faint sunlight poured through the large glass windows, casting warmth across the elegantly arranged space, filled with chessboards and eager faces. The transformation she had undergone was monumental.
A complete metamorphosis from the girl who once hid in the shadows of the elite. Since that pivotal match against Griffin, every piece she had captured on the board uncovered a new facet of her identity, each win reminding her that she no longer needed to be defined by her past. Over the months, she had accomplished more than she had dreamed, building the academy from mere aspirations to a vibrant reality. She had secured funding, enlisted a team of passionate instructors, and created a curriculum that emphasized not just strategy, but empowerment, fostering resilience among her students as she learned to do herself. Walking through the doors, she could hear the laughter and chatter of young players eagerly discussing strategies. This was her heartbeat now, the life she had built, and the space she had curated for others to thrive.
Frequenting schools and community centers, she had shared her story, bridging gaps through chess, creating mentorship programs, and demonstrating that success is achievable regardless of background. The weight of her once fragile self-identity dissolved in the faces of these determined students. Each struggling dream reflected within them was now a reminder of her own transformation. She couldn't help but smile, a deep satisfaction swelling in her chest. Mia had stepped fully into her role as a leader, helping others navigate their own chess journeys. She could see their ambitions mirrored in her movements, reshaping not just the narrative of her life, but also the lives of many others. Classes filled quickly, the demand for the Academy's programs overwhelming. Mia's vision had mattered, her efforts recognized both locally and in the greater chess community. She received invitations to speak at events, discussing her journey and promoting inclusivity in the professional arena, an affirmation of her place not only as a gifted player, but a respected advocate and educator. Ruffling through papers on her desk, she paused at a letter from the chess organization announcing Mia's nomination for a Rising Star Award. She felt a mixture of disbelief and exhilaration. All of her hard work had not only impacted herself, but resonated throughout her community. She had shown that talent thrives in even the most unexpected places. Yet, as numbers swelled and the excitement of potential accolades loomed, part of her still confronted familiar fears. What if she became too absorbed in accolades and recognition, losing sight of the essence of why she had begun this journey? A flicker of doubt whispered about her new identity, overshadowing the legacy she hoped to create. However, with each deep breath, she reminded herself, this path had never been about validation, but about purpose. Each student emerged from the shadows striving for their own brilliance. Every single day, she witnessed their tenacity inspire personal growth within herself. On a particularly bright Saturday morning, the Academy organized a community chess tournament. Kids gathered, excitement punctuating the atmosphere. As she moved through the crowds, her heart swelled witnessing children tackling complexities far beyond what their backgrounds might suggest. There, as she watched her students facing their opponents with focus and determination, she encountered Griffin looming near. His smile was genuine, his pride evident in the way he nodded toward the board. It was validation, not just for her, but for their fight, their commitment. "Look how far you've come, Mia. You've created something remarkable," he acknowledged, admiration etched in his voice. With those words, she comprehended a profound truth. This wasn't merely about her achievements, but a collective rebirth. Each victory rewritten through the inquisitive minds nurtured within these walls. "We did it together," she replied, her voice steadier than it had been in that first match. She felt assured in the knowledge that she had fostered an environment where others could see their potential. Finally, as the tournament concluded and awards were handed out, she stood in front of the crowd, words of gratitude spilling forth for her students who had believed in their own capabilities. Mia no longer felt like the forgotten girl going unnoticed. She stood before them not merely as a champion of chess, but an architect of futures. Today was definitive. She had established her place, not just as the daughter of a chess legend, but as someone who forged her own legacy, inspiring others to find their voices, their victories, and courage with every move they made. The past had led her here, but it was the future that truly awaited, one filled with potential and endless possibilities. Mia took a step back, her heart swelling with pride. She had conquered not just the chessboard, but the narrative of her existence, redefining what success truly meant. This was just the beginning, a culmination of every decision she had ever made, shaping a world both for herself and for those who needed it most. Now it's time for you to take action and join Mia in this incredible journey of growth. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will empower you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support these transformative narratives. Don't forget to comment your reactions and theories. Your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread the inspiration.